Alrighty, guys. Well, welcome to Two Qs with Lisa Ward. I am your host, and today our guest is Miss Stae. So, Stae, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This is definitely a pleasure. I'm looking forward to chatting with you more today. And my name is Stae Hall, and I'm the CEO of i.S.A.L.T, which is Institute for Success and Leadership Training. And we specialize in executive coaching, team building, leadership development, career enhancement, all of the things. But what kind of sets us apart is all of our coaching and training is based with an emphasis on emotional intelligence and soft skills. And so I like to say, in short, we just teach people how to act. So a lot of those skills are not innately in everyone. So you have your hard skills, your technical skills, which is usually what gets you the job or gets you the position. But unfortunately, it's the lack of those soft skills that can cause you to lose the job because you don't have effective communication. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to accept feedback or constructive criticism. And so those are the things that we do. So we work with different municipalities, different cities, school districts, corporations, and we come in and we love to do top-down coaching where we start with the CEOs and the C-suite executives and kind of give them that foundation. And then we work down with the other team members. So that's who I am and what I do.
Good. I'm glad you do top down.
Yes. Yes, it's so important because we believe that's where the culture starts. And so we're big with our coaching and training to emphasize the importance of culture and morale and team. And so we feel like it has to start from the top down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But wonderful. Everyone gets the same two questions. And
Okay.
your first one is, what do you want that you don't already have?
Well, what I want that I don't already have is going to sound crazy, probably. And I hope everyone sounds a little crazy because your want should be a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
And is a school. I want a school. I want to start a school where we are teaching the soft skills and emphasizing personality and kindness and human interaction, and also giving some free thinking where it's just not about go to school, get good grades, go to college, whatever. We want to offer, courses in entrepreneurship and things like that. So that's what I want that I don't have, but I
Okay.
will.
So, tell me more about that. Are we like grade school? Are we high school? What are
Well,
you envisioning?
I am truly a believer, just like within my business that I currently have, it's about the top down leadership. I guess it's in reverse for me with education. I feel like the younger we get started, the better. And so, because so many things get ingrained in us at such a young age, I would love to start being able to open minds at a very young age. So I see some of these charter schools, like Harmony School of Innovation and schools like that, where they do start with elementary. So I would love to start with K through 6 and then be able to build up from there, get the minds while they're young and fresh and give them all of their different options. And also, teaching the soft skills because the act of sharing, right? That's a soft skill. And if you have a kiddo in kindergarten who's been an only child, possibly for 5 years, only dealing with adults who give them everything. And now they're in a classroom with 20 other 5-year-olds and it's mine, mine, mine. They don't know the act of sharing. And so I definitely believe the younger, the better. And so I would like to start with K through 6.
That's amazing. How cool. I was not expecting that answer from you. So that's really cool. And of course we need to have big goals and big ideas. I mean, that's why we're business owners.
Yes.
Why
Yeah.
not dream big?
Yeah. And so I've started it, with my nonprofit. So that's a little bit of being able to do that, but I want to be able to expand. So eventually.
Okay. Tell me more about the nonprofit.
So the nonprofit is Empower EQ, and it's based on the same thing, teaching the soft skills, emotional intelligence, with a little bit more of job readiness. And so what we found is with our for-profit I.S.A.L.T, it's great to be able to go into these municipalities and these corporations, but these are people who already have careers, already have jobs. But a lot of people who, maybe don't have the formal education, and maybe, you're thinking about the mom who's now a single mom due to maybe the death of a spouse and she's never worked before, or maybe someone who has just gone through domestic violence and has escaped that life and now they're on their own. They don't have those skills that they need to be job ready, and they can't afford our services otherwise. So we created Empower EQ so that we can service those people sometimes who really need us the most, because we may be the only education that they've had as far as it goes with career and leadership. And so that's what we do with Empower EQ.
That's amazing. What a like lift off, great building of a foundation, turning the page to their next chapter.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, we just think about people, re-entry, they, may have gotten into trouble young in life and maybe have spent, half of their adult life incarcerated and never even had the opportunity to have a job. They've done what they can do to rehabilitate themselves, a new mindset. But again, no real skills. And so, and a lot of times, which, entrepreneurship is great, but not so great maybe if you're forced into it because you have a felony on your record and you can't get a job. So you have to start your own business. And what do you do? And so those are the groups that we're kind of looking to be able to serve through Empower EQ.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So going back to the school now,
Uh-huh.
what's holding us back from starting a school? So what's holding you back from achieving that goal?
What isn't, right? So it's a goal, but I have so many other irons in the fire, number one. And so I definitely want to get my current business and nonprofit to a place where they're running like that fine oiled machine that you want, and having all the people in place so that when I am starting that school, I'm able to give it 100%. I am not a believer in multitasking. I believe that everything deserves 100% of your attention. And so something like that is definitely key. And then also, with a school, you can't wait to build a team after. And so I need to start looking into building that team now. And so I do have some key players who are aware of the project, but they also have careers and things that they're doing now where it's just the timing of it. And so just kind of waiting for some other things to level out to where I can give it 100% and have my team members in place.
Okay, that's good. You've identified that. Have you identified like all of the different roles that would be needed potentially just to get it started?
Yeah, for the most part, I have. There are still some things that, I'm looking into. We're not like fully staffed not even in my mind yet, but I do have some key players. And that's another thing. There's a couple of people who really want to be involved who don't live here in the state of Texas. And so trying to figure out, is this something that we're going to start as a brick and mortar, or does it make more sense for it to be more virtual? And then when you do things like that, there's also the, legalities of all that and what it looks like, and what we'll be able to do. And so there's still a lot of research that's going on as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be, gosh, we could have used that during COVID with all of the soft skills that were lost.
Yeah. And so we do have an online portal with i.S.A.L.T, which I forget to mention, but I have to say it was such a blessing for us during COVID, because so much of what we do is in person and things were canceled and we couldn't do it. But we do have over 800 courses. It's yeah, iSalt4U.com. So it's iSalt, ISALT, and then the number 4 and the letter U.com. And there is a subscription that you can buy into, and you have access to over 800 different soft skills courses and leadership courses on there. So, and that was a godsend for us during COVID.
Yeah. How long did it take you to build that out?
Oh, it was at least a year and a half, 2 years. And so we had it in place before COVID. The
Mhm.
thing was, that's what kept us afloat when COVID hit. So it was like, that's kind of how we started. And then it just
Oh.
got grew into, more in person. And so we really didn't think about the online as much. We had subscribers and, it just kind of works on its own. And we would add courses to it every once in a while, but that wasn't really our big selling point. It was just, we had that, and then there's also companies who hire us and they want to black label our services. And so, if you have a job and you have to do certain trainings during the year, there were some companies who are like, okay, can we use your training and just put our logo on it? And so we've done some things like that, but we didn't realize until COVID how important that piece was actually going to be for us, because that was literally our bread and butter for almost a year before we were able to get back out there and do our in-person coaching and training.
That's I'm just blown away by the library. Over 800. That takes time.
Well, the thing is, it takes a lot of time, and we do have, actors who, do, because it's very interactive. And so everything is video. It's not like you're just listening or reading, but we do our modules in what we call sips. So instead of giving people information in these huge gulps where they're sitting there for 45 minutes and their attention span is completely gone, our modules are all between 5 to 8 minutes long. And so
Oh, okay.
when you think of it that way, it's not really as big as it seems, but you can have, one lesson that maybe has 5 different modules in it. But
Okay.
that way you get this module, you take your quiz, and then maybe you can take a break and then come back to it. And so that's the way it's set up.
Okay. Bite-sized chunks. I like it. You call them sips. Yes.
Yes, sips. That's what we call it.
Very
Just
cute. Very
little
creative.
sips instead of big gulps.
Yeah. No, I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay. Something else you mentioned was getting the business like day to day. Oh, I forget what you exactly said, but get it to a point where you felt comfortable enough, get the nonprofit in a, status where it's comfortable enough that then you can start the school. I might challenge you on that. I don't know that there's ever a perfect moment, but like, is there a certain threshold that you're like, okay, I have to have sales at X so that I can dedicate time to this? How does that process look like for you?
What it is for us is actually for the first 4.5, 5 years of our business, my husband was still in corporate America. And so it was pretty much myself and my assistant. And so this June, it was a year that my husband has been with me full time. And
Congrats.
yes, thank you. And so now what it is just getting it to the point where he's going to be able to take over and do a lot of the things that I've done. And so it's still a little bit of a learning curve for him. And we also have another division to this, which is called 14 Elements, which is still the same thing, but it's more geared towards, kids who are transitioning from high school to college. And so that's the part that he really deals with. And so once he is completely on board and doing a lot of the in-person training, because I do most of the in-person now and he kind of does the behind the scenes, but once he's completely integrated and he's doing all of the things, then that's when I'll be able to step away and start something different. So we're looking at maybe in the next year or two, then I'll be able to get started and he'll feel comfortable, just like, yeah, I got it, babe, do your thing.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. I'm glad you had a plan for that because I know so many that they're like, oh, well, I'm not ready. It's got to be at this level of sales. Like, there's always going to be something,
yeah,
keeping you back from making that next step or adding on that additional service. It's like, go ahead and just try.
I agree. I was just telling one of my life coaching clients about that this morning. She's like, I'm just waiting for it to be perfect. And I'm like, well, what is perfect? I'm like, how are you going to know if it's perfect if you don't try it? And I'm like, and then even if it's not, then you just tweak it because perfection doesn't even exist. So I'm like, really what you're doing is procrastinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's the, potential of failure or rejection or not doing it right and looking embarrassed,
Right. And sometimes it's the opposite, right? It's that fear of success. If this is great, am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be overwhelmed? What if I get tons of clients, or what if I sell more product than I have ready? Sometimes that's the thing too that keeps people back and they don't even realize it. They say they're afraid to fail, but really they're afraid of succeeding because now there's an expectation.
I like I like the positive spin on it. I like that version better. We're not going to fall on our face. It's going to be so successful. Then we're going to have another set of obstacles
Yes.
that
Yeah,
we'll
we're
have to work on.
yeah.
Cool. So why start the company? What was the inspiration?
There were a few things. One of the main things was actually our kids. So we have 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls.
Oh,
Yeah, all grown now. The youngest just came home for a little break before he goes back to school. He's 22. The oldest is 33. And what we noticed some years ago when the first set kind of was leaving college and getting into the workforce, like they did all the right things, right? Everyone went to school, got good grades. We had one who went to the military, everybody else went to college. And so we're like, high five, we're great parents. And then we realized when they were going into the workforce and interviewing and things, we would ask them questions about their interviews. And it was just so like, I don't know. So what did they ask you? I don't know. Well, when are they supposed to get back with you? I don't know. And then one of our sons was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get that job because they were saying that I might have to work every other Saturday. And I was letting them know that I usually do basketball tournaments on Saturdays. So, and we're just like, what? And so it was a lot of stuff. And then we had one of our sons who actually got this great job out in the oil fields, making 6 figures at 20 years old. And one day they called them all in for a meeting and said that effective immediately, you can no longer wear your AirPods out in the field because someone got hurt. And so he likes his music. So he just got in his car and came home. Like, I'm not doing that. Yeah.
no.
We realized our kids had no soft skills, no emotional intelligence. And we did some research, like our other people's, like we thought we were done. We're like, what's wrong with our kids? And so we started to research, and that's when we kind of found out that soft skills and emotional intelligence was even a thing, and we had not taught our children that. We would take them, because we've been entrepreneurs for a long time. Like, this is the biggest venture we've had. This is the first time we've both been full time, but we've owned 18 wheelers in the past. We had a tax office in the past, so we have done other things. And so we would go to networking events, and one day they got older to kind of introduce them to the business world. They didn't know how to introduce themselves to people. They didn't know how to look people in their eye when they talked. They were always on their phones. And we're like, we have failed our children. And so that was one of the main things, researching that. And then we found out that other people were having those issues as well, and just other things that happened. We're like, this could be a business. And so
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the short of it. But yeah, a lot of it started, at the kitchen table, just asking those questions. And, can you put your phone down and then ask, like, how do you introduce yourself when you go into, an interview? What did you say? Did you ask any questions? Because we just kind of figured they're out of school now. They're a certain age. Okay, go be great. We've done all the things, and we hadn't. And the schools don't either. And so we're like, someone needs to teach these things. Now, our kids were very mannerable. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Please, thank you. But that was about it.
Wow.
No other
That's wonderful. I mean, it was literally an issue that you had, and you found out other people also have that issue. So let's monetize it. Let's help fix this problem.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, because I mean, I was at a networking event this morning, and I have a theater background. So I take advantage sometimes of literally growing up at the dance studio and musical theater class.
Mm-hmm.
We had to introduce ourselves. It was,
Yes.
hi, my name is X, and I'm in such and such grade at such and such school. And then we would have a little prompt we would have to then come up with an answer to. And my favorite snack is grapes. I don't know, something
Okay. Yeah.
silly.
Yeah.
But that practice in front of our peers, I literally had been doing that since I was 6 years old.
Mhm.
And that's in the arts. So not necessarily something you have at football practice or at
Exactly.
tennis practice.
And which was so different because we have a lot in common. I have a theater background as well. I did the pageant thing. I went to etiquette classes, but none of my kids followed in my background with the arts at all. They, now I do have one son who's the videographer, but that's also different as well because he
Behind
doesn't
the
have to
scenes.
really interact, and he's great at what he's done. He's won a Stellar Award, like he's awesome, but he doesn't like to talk to people. And so even when he does work for me sometimes, I'll say I want, when I'm doing different events, he's like, well, are you going to tell people where to be? Because I really don't want to talk to anybody. Like that's just not his thing. But they all played sports, and then they all interacted well with each other and with us. And so that's what we saw, like these really outgoing kids, but we didn't realize they were really shy. It's just that they're cutting up at the house and everyone's so loud and they're, just having a great time, but they were really shy.
Yeah,
So,
in their comfort zone. They
yeah,
knew how things were going to respond, people were going to react, all that fun stuff.
yes.
Interesting. I love that's great.
Yeah, solved our
Helping
own.
all the other parents. And then, I mean, fast forward to going into the corporate world. I mean, yes, we have some generational things that we can stereotypically identify, especially once certain technologies have come into play
Mhm.
with cell phones, how we connect with one another is very different.
Right.
Have you seen a common thread or something that you're like, oh, it doesn't matter how old you are, what your industry is, X is always like the biggest aha moment in the training sessions?
There are a lot of generational gap types of issues in corporate. And I think if I'm correct, I read somewhere recently where this is the first time in history where so many generations are in the workforce at the same time. And it's like, wow, I had no idea. And so we do deal with that as a whole. But overwhelmingly, what the issue is that I see everywhere I go is that people just live in their own individual bubbles, whether they're in the same generation or not. It's just like
Mhm.
that tunnel vision where I think society as a whole has just made us a little selfish, and people just kind of are worried about themselves, and that's it. There's so many companies I go into where I can be speaking to one department and one group doesn't even know what the other group does and doesn't even really care, and they don't realize how much it affects one another. And so something that I promote a lot when I go into companies is cross training. Whether you're ever going to need it or not, whether it's even okay to have someone do someone else's job, at least do some training so they at least know what the other person does and how it affects what they do and vice versa. And so unfortunately, it's just that whole effective communication and just knowing the value and worth of your team members is just something that I see across the board. And it's so sad, but it's just, people come to work and it's like, I'm coming here to get my paycheck, do what I need to do, and I'm not worried about anyone else. And that kind of, it crosses all generations. So
Mm-hmm.
fortunate, but
Yeah.
we're working on getting it better.
Yeah. That's the employee mentality versus like the leader's mentality. It's how can I make an impact with my group? Versus, yeah, I'm literally just here for the paycheck. Could care less if I make an impact or not.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's what we're working on. And that's why I love doing the top down coaching as well, sometimes to make the leadership aware of this is what's happening and what you can do to impact that part of it. Uh,
Mhm.
Even if, you're giving all the other training and coaching and guidance, just, you don't hear the word morale very much anymore, but it's so important. It's very important. And morale helps build relationships within the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing, and unfortunately, I think depending on the business and how it's structured, cross training might not actually be possible. I mean, maybe just like a generic, hey, this is what this department does. That's why they need the form filled out a certain way because they have no clue what you do.
Exactly.
To go into the software, like I just think like accounting versus legal versus HR, like yeah, you might have an idea of what the other departments do, but there's a reason why you're in accounting, because you're really good at it. That doesn't make sense to me because I'm in legal or whatever.
Right. And like you said, and sometimes, I know cross training isn't really even possible, but there are things that you could do. And so there is one company that I dealt with that when they would have their team meetings, sometimes they would have speakers come in about different things. And I'm like, well, why not have a speaker come in from a different department every once in a while? Even if it's just once a quarter, just to explain, almost like career day at your kid's school.
Yeah.
And explain, and then you explain to this department how their department helps this one function, why we need this from you, and I said, and sometimes it just gives a whole brand new appreciation, and it may make someone take things a little bit more seriously when you actually know I'm a piece of a puzzle. We all are functioning independently, but at the same time, we're a team as well.
Mm-hmm.
One part can't function without the other. And so I was glad to say they took my recommendation, and they looked at me a little funny, but I said, it just, it helps. And I said, and then also it helps too with, people seeing what other opportunities there are.
Mm-hmm.
I know we all want to hold on to people, but when people feel like they're being invested in and you're introducing them to different opportunities, that's also something that helps with morale. And so it's something that they've done, and there are other companies who do the same thing. So just kind of like a show and tell for grown people. Your day.
Career, no, I love the analogy of career day because that's so true. And especially if you've got a degree, but you only were in a certain department or a certain aspect of a project, had no clue another department even existed. And you might be fantastic at that. It's not until a leader gives you that opportunity. The only thing that I might see cross training in the corporate world is when there's a leadership program. And then you go through the leadership program with your cohort. And that's when you meet other people, you learn about their departments. And you kind of have to be sponsored or selected to get into that kind of program. But if there was something, company globally.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, the opportunities. People might actually be at the company longer because they know
Exactly.
another department exists.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then that's the thing, then it's not really losing someone, it's just transferring talent. But you
Mm-hmm.
have this great individual with your company. They didn't have to go outside to find what they were looking for. And so I just think it's an awesome thing. And people love to be somewhere where they feel that they're valued and heard and appreciated, and that you're going to invest in them, and that you care about what their goals are. And so there's a few things that I've helped some companies with as far as mentorship and things like that. And it's just awesome because there are also people, I do a lot of work for the city of Fort Worth, and what people say about cities and ISDs. People stay at those jobs for decades.
Yeah.
And they're there so long, they've been doing the same job for 30 or 40 years, but they no longer feel valued or appreciated. And they may not have any desire to move along or do anything different, but they just don't feel valued. So they would love to have someone to mentor. Now, all of a sudden, they have a new purpose, right? Now, all of a sudden, they have someone that they can pour into. Now they want to show up and do a little better because they're showing.
Somebody's watching.
Yes, yes. And it's like, people have said, I never thought about that, because I get a lot of issues sometimes where they come to me like, this person has just been doing this job for so long, it just doesn't seem like they care. And it's so hard. I'm like, we got to give them something else. We have to give them something else. And sometimes that's exactly what it takes, is just giving them where they feel like, okay, I have to go in today and show Stae how to do a great job. And they love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gosh, I could list off several people that they already do that. They're fantastic mentors and they seek it out. But if you weren't allowed, like, open the door for the opportunity to be a mentor, I could see that definitely inspiring folks, especially if they've been there for that long. The knowledge and the experience, shoot, we need all of the information out of their brain before they do retire.
Exactly. Because that's another thing that people suffer with, is those succession plans. What's going to happen when this person is here? We need more than one person to have a key to the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to see happen. And it just gives people purpose. And sometimes people shy away from being a mentor without actually being asked because they don't want to be perceived as, getting in somebody else's business or overstepping or telling people what to do. So it's like, no, you need to give people permission to be able to walk in their expertise by actually asking them to mentor so that they don't feel like, well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Give them the permission to do that, create a program. It's simple enough to do. And that's kind of how you see who else in the company wants something more, because those people who volunteer to be
Mhm.
mentored, those are your shining stars. So
Yeah.
you continue to pour into them before they go somewhere else.
Yes. That's basically the flag of, hey, either talk to me or I'm going to talk to this recruiter who keeps hitting me up.
Yep. Yep. Because that's something I do surveys all the time when I go somewhere and do coaching or training. And one of the main things people say or complaints is that they don't get enough coaching and training in
Or
companies. Like, I thought people hated training. It's like, no, it depends on how you do it.
good training. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or like one on one. Hey, this is the issue I have right now. How can you help me work through this?
Yeah. And as much as I love our i.S.A.L.T portal, and I explained to you how, it really got us through COVID, I think that was like a major thing when it first came out, that you can sit and do your training online. But people like interactive in-person training as much as they can get it, where they can actually raise their hand and ask a question or
Mhm.
share something. And so I tell them that all the time. I'm like, if your training is all virtual and just sending them a link and you got to do this by Friday, they're not getting anything out of that. They're going straight through to the quiz, see how many they can get right, and they're done. I'm like, people want FaceTime. And
Yeah.
they be able to interact with one another. They're craving it. And now that we're in a world of where you can get certifications and things, and it doesn't have to be this expensive 4-year college or more, and you can go and get training on specific things just to really, increase your knowledge in one specific thing. People love that. So I feel like more places need to figure out how they can partner with different types of educational programs to offer certifications as well.
Nice. Do you guys do that too, or it's just the soft skills side?
No, we do certifications through what I was saying, 14 Elements, because we've partnered with Houston Tilliton in Austin. And so they have seen the courses that we do. And so we do have some certifications like Girls Inc. Tarrant County
Yeah.
uses our 14 Elements. So there's a group of young ladies now who are going through that 14 Elements program, and they'll have certifications through Houston Tilliton.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, what do you guys not do? It sounds like.
And it's funny, it's a lot, but at the same time, it's the same thing packaged differently for different age groups, but it's all going to be your leadership development, job skills, things like that, with soft skills and emotional intelligence. So all of our training is going to have the same base, but it's just packaged a little differently depending on who's going to be the user.
Yeah, but that makes you, available to every market. Because,
Absolutely.
I mean, just with the idea of the school, we do need to start young, but
Mm-hmm.
then keep it. I feel like there are some things that we learn and we dig into as children, especially like our creativity and our
Mm-hmm.
imagination. We lose that. So if there's some way we can harness that and keep it, um, but then continue, especially with the soft skills,
Yeah.
into our poor junior high awkward ages. I just
Yeah, that's why I would love to start young, but like my vision is, starting young, and then by the time that, our first graders or whatever are going into high school, then have a middle school ready, like being able to phase it to where eventually we're going all the way through the 12th grade. But I'm an old lady, so we'll see. And hopefully one of my kids will keep on the legacy. But hopefully I'll be around long enough to see, a first graduating class of i.S.A.L.T University. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be so cool. I think you'll be fine. I think you'll
Yeah,
still
yeah,
be here.
I'm
No
hanging
problem.
in. I'm hanging.
Yeah, you'll be re-inspired. You'll want to mentor all of the kids,
Yes,
and
yes.
identify other mentors. Awesome. But since you've owned so many businesses,
Mhm.
um, has there been a thread that you've experienced like, oh gosh, I wish I had known X from like your first business to like building on experience? Um,
Well, my first business, I was so young. I didn't know that owning a business was more than just saying I have a business and charging people to do something. Like
oh, really?
I really thought that was it. And so my first business was event planning, which just kind of birthed itself out of the fact that everyone loved when I had events. And so people started hiring me to do their events. And I had someone who did not pay me. And so I
Mm.
was going to, take them to court. They paid their deposit, but they didn't pay the rest of it. And then I realized I really didn't have a leg to stand on because my business was not legitimate. I had not gotten what I needed. I didn't have, I hadn't registered a business name. I mean, I hadn't done anything. I didn't have a tax ID, but I had been operating for 2 years just fine and everybody paid me and I did whatever. And so that's something that when I have life coaching clients who also are entrepreneurs, I always talk to them about, making sure that you do not let your business remain a side hustle forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point you need to legitimize your business. And so what I learned was that it's so much out there and a lot of things. I think sometimes people don't like to legitimize their business because they feel like it's so expensive and well, how is it really going to benefit me? And then, they're going to be after me for taxes, but there's so many different things that can help you. And so another thing that I wish I would have known a long time ago was what a chamber of commerce is and what it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Now I'm on the board for the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce. But when I was in business years ago, I didn't even know what a chamber of commerce was. And so that's one of the first places that I send new entrepreneurs. Get to know your chamber of commerce. They will help you with everything. Get a business plan together because I really kind of, did myself a disservice early on in entrepreneurship and just had a side hustle with not a leg to stand on if someone didn't pay me or if something didn't go right. I just, my business really didn't exist. And so that's something that I wish I would have known early on because I ended up learning some hard lessons by not having, but I'm a first entrepreneur in my family. And so I had never even
Oh.
seen it before. And so, it was just like learn as you go. But that's a part of why I do what I do too, just to help people not have to make the same mistakes that I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you didn't know what you didn't know until you
Yeah,
were in the situation.
I just thought, hey, I do this thing and people pay me to do it. I have a business. What do you mean? That's it. And so I'd never heard of a tax ID number at 22 years old. I'm like, what? So
Well, yeah. You probably hadn't even done your tax return yet, maybe.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, those are just some of the things that I wish I knew. And now with entrepreneurship being, growing so rapidly and so many more people starting businesses, it's like that's just something that's really important. And we do have one son that's an entrepreneur, and I'm glad that I was able to give him that foundation. And he started his business in his early 20s, but mom already knew that stuff. And so that's something that I'm glad that I've been able to give them.
Good. Good, good. Okay, one last question.
Sure.
What, EQ, IQ piece of advice that if we are that leader in our company or the owner of the business, what little nugget would you give them that we need to be working on?
Wow. Well, I think one of the common threads of our conversation today is just that human connection piece and morale, and just making sure that you're checking in with your team and having those conversations with them, as brief as they may be, because I know that all of us as leaders, time is the one thing that we don't seem to have enough of. But if you could just take a few moments every once in a while to check in with members of your team on a personal note so that they know that you mean more to them than just the business and what they can provide. Check in and just ask genuinely, how was your weekend? Check in and just say, is there anything that I can help you with, just to let them know that they're valued and you appreciate them as a human being. Let's really be true to the phrase, I have an open door policy. In order to have an open door policy, it means that sometimes you have to come out of your door and show people that you are really welcoming, because that's something a lot of leaders will say to me, well, I don't know why they're afraid to talk to me. I have an open door policy, but have you really shown them that? And sometimes you need to come out of your door and walk into theirs. And so just having those little brief conversations, buying donuts every once in a while for no reason, and, just checking in with people, it goes a long way, because morale is very important. And I think it's just kind of a lost art, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
noticing that picture on their desk and asking, who's that, or whatever, and just having those little conversations. I think that's very important.
Yeah, but genuinely doing
And
that.
genuinely, and trying to remember things, and again,
Mhm.
depending on how big your company is and how big your team is, it might be difficult, but that's something that, I tell people, if people have pictures on their desk, use the picture as the something that you remember and refer to that, or just find little things. And sometimes, it can't be, don't walk around the office and go to everybody all in one day. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a couple of people, or even if you want to call them in once in a while and it's not for their quarterly review and it's not because they did anything, just call them in and just say, hey, Lisa, I just wanted to sit down and chat with you and just kind of get to know you a little bit. And and there's nothing wrong with even taking notes during those
Mm-hmm.
conversations, because that lets the person know, hey, I'm paying attention, but there's a lot of people I just want to make sure that I remember, so that you can kind of keep tabs on people and how they're doing, because they come to work for that job, but they're a whole person. And
Mm-hmm.
so getting to know them and a little bit about their life, can actually help morale a lot. And morale is what is going to fuel production.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just talking to people without even needing something from them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that shock of calling somebody in the office, sending them that email, and they're like, oh my gosh. And then you just sit down and say, hey, I was just checking in with you to see how things are going. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
with no agenda, no nothing. It's just hi.
Right. Yeah, or just to tell you, you've been doing a great job. We really appreciate you. Don't
Yeah.
save those things for always the big group end of the year thing. Individualizing things. If someone does a great job, be sure to tell them they did a great job. If you appreciated something, because even though it's their job, people do their jobs differently. And when people go above and beyond, even in the slightest, acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone catches a mistake or whatever, acknowledge that, because they could have just let it go and you would have never known. So it's just, people like acknowledgement. They like to feel valued and heard.
Yeah. Genuine accolades
Yeah.
are always nice.
Yes.
Sometimes we only get the, constructive criticism. So next time, how about we do blah?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like we always want to be able to have harmony with those things.
I love that. Okay, I am excited for your school. It's going to happen.
Thank
I might have to
you.
put a reminder on my calendar, in a year or in 6 months. Hey, how's it? Have we built out the team yet? Figured out
Right.
all the
Yeah.
players?
Yeah. Hold me accountable. Check in with me. I don't mind at all.
That's awesome. 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 Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to hearing more about your fun school and all the other programs you guys have. And look forward to you guys all tuning in for our next episode.